A wind of change. New owners had taken over the Dog and Duck, so Maybury held its breath. Not that it was a community of drinkers, far from it, but as in many small English towns, the pub was as much a centre of social life as St Cuthbert's Church, the community centre, and the doctor's waiting room. The inhabitants of Maybury enjoyed a relaxed look at their world, over a pint drunk at the trestle tables outside in summer. They savoured the coziness of the weekly darts match in the winter. They chose to celebrate their highs, cement their friendships, and mark their births and passings in the small dining room attached to the bar. Not wanting this to change, they held their breath as a removal van parked outside the door one summer Monday morning. The last owners had been very popular. What of the new? A sign outside announced that the grand reopening would be taking place at noon on Wednesday. A few passers-by that Monday morning detoured as they went about their daily business to see what could be seen. Swathed furniture was carried into the upstairs flat. An unfamiliar dark purple estate car was parked at the side of the building. It was not, however, until the front door opened to reveal the most golden of Labradors on a lead about to be taken for a walk, that the curious snagged their first clues. A couple, in their mid-50s, chatting and smiling together, accompanied the dog down the path by the river. Torn as people are between curiosity and polite discretion, the couple received nods, smiles, even a few nice days. Knowing they were objects of scrutiny, they replied to all before returning to unpack some more, to resume creating their whole. If the full truth had been known, reactions might have been different. Roy and Alison were presenting a strong, cheerful front, but in reality they felt that this was their last chance at having a normal life. Not so long ago there'd been high flyers in the city in their respective fields, each headhunted by their firms, with all the trappings and scars of success. An Edwardian house in the stockbroker belt, 2 well-adjusted teenage children socially and intellectually happy at their private schools, a tendency to overweight from too many business lunches and late dinners after arriving home on the last train, and even worse, an erratic sleep pattern stemming from an inability to still and soothe overactive minds at night. Their definition of success had been hardwired into them by parents disjointed by the war years. They valued the stability of daily routine and the comfort of financial nest eggs in the bank. Until a random car accident deprived them of their children and that way of life forever. Achievements in the world of work felt hollow. The many rooms of their fine house echoed with emptiness. Daily life reminded them of what they'd had, but didn't provide enthusiasm for the future. By the time each had been passed over for an obvious promotion at work, and they'd stopped talking to each other at home, they knew something had to change. They feared becoming mere automatons, devoid of any feeling but grief, and without hope for a happier future. They realized they needed a complete change of life, of place, of routine, of goals and deadlines, but a change with enough challenge to goad them back into feeling alive. They reassessed their skills and interests. Roy was a wine connoisseur and also a member of the fledgling organisation CAMRA. The historical heritage of ale-making appealed to him as much as its taste. Alison, before the city had swallowed up all her time and energy, had taken regular cookery courses enjoying the natural high which filled her when she was, in turn, filling and nourishing others. Both had business skills, wanted a downsized home in a new life far away from London, and needed social connections to fill the void within. Buying a country pub seemed an obvious step. They'd have enough money from their savings, from the early retirement packages of their respective firms, and from the sale of their house, to buy one outright. That way, they would be independent from the demands of any brewery chain, free from the financial and mental stress of making a business thrive. It just had to tick over, paying for itself. Even better, they would still have a small but not insignificant nest egg to fall back on if the change didn't work out. Once the decision was made to become pub landlords, each step led them to Maybury. As if to reinforce the different nature of their future lifestyle, a few months before the move, to their surprise, they acquired a dog. They'd always talked of getting one, but busy city lives didn't accommodate having a pet. Just before leaving London, their next-door neighbours, also moving, but to the Far East with their firm, asked if anyone knew who'd want Jack, their 3-year-old golden retriever. 2 became 3. They sold or gave away much of their furniture, laden with memories as it was. Leaving behind their city lives and friends, their minds and hearts for the first time in recent years felt lighter as they drove to Maybury that Monday morning behind the removal van. Local people would not have seen it as gossip, more neighbourly speculation, but conversation about the pub increased as the week progressed. At noon on Wednesday, more patrons crossed its threshold than there would have been on a normal weekday. Many carried books as if they'd just been passing as usual on the way back home from their weekly visit to the library van. Had the inside changed? The names on the new sign over the door were Roy and Alison. What would they be like? On entering, people noticed that 2 things were different. First, the 2 best-lit tables beside the big window at the front now had centerpieces of an old-fashioned tea set, patterned with small roses, set out for 4. Menus sat atop a starched white tablecloth, offering coffee and tea, biscuits and buns. Alison, used to an urban background of coffee shops, realised there was not a cafe in Maybury where people could meet during the day, especially women. Men could call into the pub for a quick lager, trusting they'd find someone to chat with. At the very least, the landlord was always there. But while there was no stigma in a London cafe when sitting on your own over a hot drink, Alison was well aware that in a small place like Maybury, patterns of respectability would have to be strictly adhered to by women of a certain age. The pub bar would not cater for or assuage their loneliness. So she had created a separate area where anyone could sit and sip, with company or on their own, and remain above reproach. The other significant change also aimed at increasing social interaction, but more with an eye to the coming winter months than the incoming long summer evenings. Around the Inglenook fireplace, instead of the previous cluster of 5 small tables, there were now 3 large sofas, wine-red, high-backed, firm-seated. In front of a fire roaring on a winter evening, how comfortable the people of Maybury would be there, chatting, relaxing, in a warm atmosphere of a home away from home. Roy and Alison realised they might make less money with the loss of those 5 tables, But with their healthy bank balances, a convivial social atmosphere in the Dog and Duck was of much more importance to them personally. The people of Maybury, that first Wednesday morning, on some level realised this. They recognised their world had been extended. They now had somewhere else apart from St. Cuthbert's and the community hall in which to connect, feel a real sense of community. Roy and Alison poured out warmth and friendship with their first pints, bottles of cider, glasses of wine, and their first teas and coffees. Over the coming months and years, this was reflected back to them by their customers, creating a circle which would encircle the lonely, ease the pain of grieving hearts, and bring the people of Maybury even closer together.